From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Paranormal Radio with Bob Tricek on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich. So sit back and enjoy Paranormal Radio. And now here's the king of Paranormal Radio, Mr. Bob Tricek.
Oh, now I'm the king of Paranormal Radio. Look at that. I have a title now. I'm actually the king. I'm not the prince. I'm the king. How do you like that? Nice to be at the top. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. It's always a joy doing these shows. This cold and snowy January 12th that we have here. The holiday is all over now, so it's just time to settle back, throw another coal on the grate on the fire, and sit back with a cup of hot cocoa and listen to some radio. We've got with us tonight a man that's been with us before. We've had Ray on a few times before. You've been here, haven't you? A couple times, Ray?
A couple times. Well, here I think just once.
But at WAG I had you over. Yeah, at WAG. So Ray's no stranger to Paranormal Radio. We've had him before, Mr. Ray Johnson, Chicago Haunt Detective. And then I also have somebody that looks familiar to me, though I can't imagine why, Mr. Chris Traziak. And Mr. Chris Traziak is a newcomer in the field of politics. He's going to talk a little bit about his agenda. He's running for trustee in the village of Evergreen Park. You got to tell me what a trustee is, because I'm not really sure what exactly a trustee is. So we'll have to find out about that. I'm going to just get started, and I don't know what we're going to talk about with Ray, because Ray has so many varied interests and things he talks about. And then we will take about a 2-minute break from talking sometime during the broadcast, and I'll play an old recording of Francesco Tamagno, an old opera star from the past, and we'll talk about him and a little bit of the places he haunts, and tell a little bit about his biography, and then we'll go on from there. Ray, welcome back to Paranormal Radio.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Oh, it's always good to have you here because you bring good things when you come. You're like Santa Claus.
Gifts. Well, I bring gifts, so you bring me back.
Yeah, Ray comes bearing gifts. Ray brought his new book. Well, it's actually not new. It's been out for a while now, hasn't it?
It came out. It's last year, because now it's the new year.
That's right.
It came out in 2014.
And it's called Chicago History: The Stranger Side. And you also have a website that has that too, don't you?
It's actually not a website. It's actually the two the two. I've got more than two. The websites I have are hauntdetective.com, and then there's historycop.com, and then friendsofthewhitecity.org, which is the new nonprofit we started last year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what do you want to talk about? And we only have an hour here, so I know Ray. We get started. We could go for easily 2 or 3 hours.
If you ask me what time it is, I could spend an hour talking about that. So so that's not real difficult. But the Chicago History of the Stranger Side is the second book I've written. I'm now working on 3 more books. If you can believe that.
Books.
Yeah, if you can believe that. Yeah, but
3 more. Wow.
One of them I'm working on that the publisher really likes, and it was actually an idea of a friend of mine, Steph Malcolm. Who's also on the board of Friends of the White City, and she's a big fan of freak shows, freak shows, and freak show is not necessarily a bad term. That's just something that they used to use back then. But they call them sideshows, freak shows.
Yeah.
And so we're working on a history of freak shows and digging into the individuals who would have been there were a number of bearded ladies, or a number of
just come around my neighborhood. They're all walking around the streets by my neighborhood. So just come around by me by 63rd and Harlem.
I'm not going to say Summit.
Yeah, just come over by me. You remember when we used to do shows at WAG? You remember some of the characters?
Yeah, we're never going.
That
we're not going to be allowed back in Summit anymore, right?
Well, they got to let me in because I live there. Well, then they don't really have to. They could hire me. So
exactly.
Yeah,
you can be like Cicero.
Yeah.
Cicero just
they disowned you.
They just no, not yet, not yet. Hopefully not.
You're a son of Cicero. You're from Cicero.
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah.
Born in Chicago, but raised in Cicero.
Born in Chicago. Where were you born in Chicago?
I was born on Hamlin.
Oh, you were born in Walt Disney's house.
Right. Yeah, right. I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it was his house.
No.
But yeah, so I was raised in Cicero. I was born in Chicago, but from first grade all the way through high school, I was in Cicero.
You lived in Cicero,
so,
yeah.
Morton East.
Yeah,
high
okay.
School. And actually, Morton East is in the book.
Oh, okay.
Because I did a little.
This is what I'll be reading tonight when I go home. I'll be reading the book.
Okay. But there was a history of that. The
so
theater,
you have
the Codal Auditorium, the theater there.
You are Chicago's haunt detective.
Yes.
Yeah,
I thought it was a really cool website.
Yeah.
Or URL.
That one I haven't been on. Now, the Friends of the White City, I go on the Friends of the White City. I've been on the Stranger Side. I've been on that website.
Well, the Stranger Side is not it's a Facebook group.
Yeah, Facebook, yeah.
So, and we got like close to, last time I looked, like 2,700 people.
Really?
So it's a really popular kind of topic.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
So it's especially, and it's all Chicago and, some of the close suburbs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a real fun group. A lot of great history-loving people that like to post neat stories about Chicago history.
What's one of the stranger stories you've heard?
Oh boy.
Yeah, and there's like 10 million. Yeah. Well, let's say one of your favorites.
How do you narrow that one down? I mean, there's all sorts of stories. I mean, I'm a big Columbian Exposition
Oh gosh,
fan,
yes, I know that. Yeah.
So I love anything about the Columbian Expo, and you'd think as huge of an event as that was, a lot of people are not even aware that it even existed. To give you an idea, I just given a private tour because we do the free tours starting in May through October in conjunction with the Jackson Park Advisory Council. We do free tours of the White City. Where the buildings were, history of, so people could actually see where it happened and how big it really was. People don't realize how huge it was until they actually start walking on the tour. I mean, it was 600 acres. Not that we cover 600 acres in the tour, although you probably feel like it once.
I wonder how many people actually paid 50 cents to go in and covered the whole thing in a day.
There was
unless they had like
well, the thing was that they estimated. I don't think anyone did it in a day because they estimated that in order to put your eyes, just to see everything, not spend time and actually stare at it, but if to actually put your eyes on everything in the fair, it would have taken 2 weeks without eating, sleeping, or anything else, and you would have walked close to 200 miles. And I mean, not that it was a 200-mile large place, but by the time you walked around inside all of the buildings, it would take 2 weeks or 200 miles worth of walking.
200 buildings and over 65,000 individual exhibits.
Yes. It's crazy.
65,000 individual exhibits, 27 million people. 27 million people visited Columbian Exposition, and like you say, many Chicagoans aren't even aware that the thing existed.
Right.
And 27 million, just to kind of give you something to compare it to, was almost half the population of the United States at that time.
Yeah.
In 1893, it was almost half the population of the U.S.
Right.
Yeah. Unbelievable amount of people
crazy.
Came to see it. Yeah. Unbelievable.
It was nuts. And so a lot of people have no idea. I did a private tour for DePaul University, and there were 30 students on the tour, and only 2 had ever even heard of the Columbian Exposition. And those 2 only because they read Devil in the White City, which is a great book, but it also married H.H. Holmes to the Columbian Exposition. And even though he really had nothing to do with the exposition, I mean, the reason that he built his hotel, or what they call the Murder Castle, was to take advantage of...
The World's Fair Hotel.
Yeah, yeah. You know how many World's Fair hotels
there
were?
Yeah.
They were all World's Fair hotels back in the
Every boarding house was a World's Fair hotel.
Yeah. Anyone that wanted to rent out a back bedroom was a World's Fair hotel. So, but yeah, it was a great time. So great time, and yeah. So anything about the Columbian Exposition, I love, and I'm discovering new things every day, and you would think that there had been more research on it and more things done with it, and there really hasn't, which is really odd. I mean, it represents the third star in the Chicago flag.
Yeah, Columbian Exposition, the Century of Progress.
Which is the 4th.
And then the Fort Dearborn Massacre, the Chicago Fire.
And
then the 2 blue stripes are the waterways. Isn't one the river?
North and South Branch of the Chicago River.
Yeah.
Right. And then the white stripes, which a lot of people don't realize there's white stripes. They just
I didn't know there were white stripes in the
flag. Well, it looks like they're just the space between the blue stripes.
What are the polka dots? All the politicians. That's on the other side of the flag.
That's a different flag. That's an orange flag. So, but yeah, it's the north, west, and south sides.
Yeah.
That's what the white and actually the 6 pointed stars. Each one of the points on the 6 pointed stars of the 4 stars means something else. And don't ask me. I didn't memorize.
How many points are on the flag? I think there's 5 points on the flag.
6. There's 6 pointed stars.
No, not on the Chicago flag. I mean the U.S. flag.
They're 5 points.
5 points.
Yeah.
And the reason there's 5 points on it is because when Betsy Ross was cutting it, she found it easier to cut.
I was just going to say.
She found it easier to cut 5 points than 6. So that's why they made it that way. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would think it'd be easier to cut 6.
I don't know. I'm not a seamstress. I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to take a break from you for just a second, Ray. But we got more to talk about.
Sure.
I'm going to bring Chris into the conversation.
Okay, bring Chris in.
Mr. Chris Trazik, welcome to Paranormal Radio.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome. Glad to have you here. You're not really paranormal.
I'm not sure that... I take that as a compliment.
You are, sir. The reason I brought you on is because you are running for office in an up-and-coming election coming up in April.
Yes.
You're running for trustee in the village that you live in.
Yes.
And your wonderful father, Mr. Ray Trazik, and your wonderful mother, Mr. Sandra Trazik, and your wonderful wife, Mrs. Nicole Trazik. Or no, be Mrs. Nicole, be Mrs. Christopher Trazik, Nicole Trazik. So you all live in Evergreen Park, and you're running for office over there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Running for village trustee.
What exactly is a trustee?
Well, that's a good question. It's very similar to like a councilman or an alderman, and the city of Chicago calls them aldermen. Evergreen Park, we have trustees.
Can you be trusted?
I hope so. That's why I'm running. Yeah, we have 6 trustees and a mayor. What's actually technically a village president, but it's kind of the honorary term mayor.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm running for one of the 6 seats. We have 3 up for election right now.
Do you have anybody running against you?
Well, there's 3 incumbents, and I believe they're all
so you got to try to
running-
beat one of them at least.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
essentially, yeah.
So you got to find the weakling, huh?
Yeah, I'll let the voters decide that.
Yeah, yeah. And in addition to this, you also work. You have a full-time job with the money.
I do. I work for the Federal Reserve Bank of
Yeah,
Chicago.
see that?
Ah.
Yeah.
You got any samples?
I wish if I could
I was just
get
gonna say
some
now.
of those.
Here I got a nephew that works for the Federal Reserve, but yet I'm so broke. I don't know how this happens. I don't get it.
No,
Yeah.
We're not in the business of handing out samples.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So now the election will be April.
Yeah, the election's a consolidated election, so there's a lot of elections, local elections that day,
Yeah.
but it's April 7th.
April 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. April. What happened significantly April 7th, Ray? Was there anything that happened?
Let's see.
April 14th, 15th is
Yeah.
Titanic, and Lincoln was assassinated.
There's nothing April 7th.
I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
there was something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just reminds me of one of those plaques that says on April 7th, 1883.
Nothing happened
Nothing
here.
important happened here.
Yeah. So April 7th is the election coming up. So you busy on the campaign trail now, and
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the cold weather,
Oh,
makes
yeah,
that
no,
a little
forget
bit
it, yeah,
tricky. But I did get my petitions. I did that door to door the old-fashioned way. Went down the street, up and down the street, knocked on doors, and I turned in my signatures for that.
get many doors slammed on you, or
No,
people
are
were
very
receptive and open to
I
it.
think
Yeah.
people are glad to see.
Well, you got an honest face, so I don't think I'd
Why,
slam the
thank
door on
you.
you. I don't think I'd slam the door on you either.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think people are appreciative to see someone. It takes a lot of time and effort to knock on doors and actually introduce yourself
Sure
to
it does.
someone. And
Yeah.
a lot of people haven't seen that in a long time. So that's what I'm trying to do. Got a website out there, got a Facebook page out there. So I've been doing that while we're kind of dealing with the cold weather. I'm hoping it warms up a bit so I can get back to knocking on doors.
Sure. Oh, it'll be warm. Yeah, you'll get some time to do that. Come up March and that, and
Yeah.
March and April. We got a little bit in April because the election's the 7th. Yeah.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
much, but yeah.
So, what are your plans for the village of Evergreen Park when you get elected?
Well, I've got a lot of plans, and first and foremost, got to recognize that I'll be working with other people if I do get elected. So it's not a one-man show. I keep trying to remind people that we have to set expectations. There's only so much we can do, but we have a lot of development that I think would be positive. We've got a big plaza, the Evergreen Park Plaza. That's a pretty well-known place.
It's kind of
And
dead, isn't it?
It's
There's nothing
actually
really
very
going
dead.
on.
It's completely closed at this point.
Oh, it is
so-
completely closed.
Yeah, there's.
They just tore down a big shopping mall the other day. They had it on Lincoln Mall. Lincoln Mall closed,
Yeah.
and they're tearing
well,
it down. It
that-
was falling down, actually, and
Yeah.
they showed pictures of it.
Yeah, I mean the plaza, if you remember back
Mm-hmm.
historically, was pretty significant. It was one of the first indoor malls in America.
Yeah.
and in its heyday, it was a big deal. Unfortunately, that particular model, that whole indoor
I think
mall,
it just got
it's kind
old-fashioned.
of changed,
Yeah.
and people are less and less interested in that. So I think we need to look at redeveloping that. I know that's on a lot of people's agenda. That's very important to the taxpayers, of course, but
And it's a big hunk of
it's
property
a big waste
too.
of space
Yeah.
right now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that would be definitely something I want to focus on. I think
Getting the taxes lowered on 9101 South St. Louis.
I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could do that.
Getting the new sidewalk put in on 9101 St. Louis.
No, definitely not that.
No.
No,
Nothing like that.
But some
So how do you
recreation
feel
stuff,
about
maybe.
corruption in politics?
Unfortunately, it happens. It's widespread. I think it gets kind of worse as you level up, with the state and then federal.
So
levels, it
you're
gets
for it or
worse, but,
against it?
If that's something you can be for or against, I'd have to be against
You're
it.
against corruption in politics? Okay. And how do you feel about the buddy system? Like once you get elected,
Like
helping,
cronyism?
yes, cronies and getting other people jobs and this kind of thing that you know. How do you feel about
That's
that? For
something-
or against?
Definitely against.
Definitely against. Okay.
These are tough questions.
I think you're flunking the test. You're not going to make a good politician because you'll be too honest. Yeah, you'll be too honest a politician. Yeah, yeah.
I think Bob was bucking for a job there for a minute there. How do you feel
I'm looking
about
for a job any place at this point. I'm McDonald's. I'm looking for anything at this
How do you
point.
feel about hiring relatives?
Unfortunately, we can't do that either.
And plus, I don't live in Evergreen Park, so I wouldn't have
that
too
would
much of
be-
a yeah. I'd have a little hard time with that one. Yeah, unless I sold hot dogs or something over there. I don't know.
Well, we could probably do that.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you with your election and with your campaign, I should say, coming up, and the best of luck to you. And also, too, I'd like to, since we've got Chris on here, and this is a political election, I don't want to seem too biased, even though Chris is my nephew, but I can't get much more biased than that, could I? But I would like to extend the invitation to the other folks that are running or candidates that are in office. If they would like to come on the radio, we'll give them some airtime, too, and we'll get them on here and have them speak their mind about that, and we'll see if we can tear them apart and and in some way make you look better so you can. No, we will. We like to give them. I've had a few political people on here, but if you listen to Paranormal Radio, we've had some. I had one of the candidates that was running for mayor in Summit, the village where I live. I had him on. And I extended the invitation to the other two. What do you? They're not candidates. What? Yeah, I guess they are candidates. Yeah. They're running against him. Yeah. And somebody else too was running for a park district position too, and same thing. We extended the invitation to them. So yeah, so the invitation's there. If they want to come on, we'll give them some equal time. Ray Johnson.
Paranormal Radio. Now, did you have any dead politicians on, or
no?
How about any dead voters?
A lot of dead weight, but no dead politicians.
A lot of dead
voters. Yeah, yeah, a lot of dead voters. A lot of dead voters on the roster that vote. You know that. Yeah. You held any offices, Ray?
Do I hold any offices?
Did you hold any, or do you?
No,
you don't.
I
not
don't
your political thing's not yours.
No, I mean, it's a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
is.
really is a tough job.
Tough.
I've got friends who have. I mean, Eric Shipman was a former partner of mine. He was a trustee over in Bartlett, and he had done. He's just finishing up, I think, his term now. And I don't think he's looking to run. Not that he didn't like what he was doing, but I think he's just moving on from politics.
Sure, had enough of it. Yeah, it's probably very tiring. Yeah. It's also probably frustrating too.
Yeah,
we were talking a little bit about this in the car on the way up here. We were talking about this. I think everybody, including every president, everybody who's run for office, goes in saying, I really want to be good at this. I really would like to do something that's worthwhile and merit and something that would make a difference. But I think they end up getting so frustrated because of all the red tape and everything you have to put up with.
And I think, like Chris made a good point, is that it's not just a single person.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you had a lot of people excited, well, at least I should say the Republicans were kind of excited that Bruce Rauner had become governor, but what can a governor really do? Because he still has to
govern?
Work with, govern, but, I mean, what does that mean?
You've got to work with a lot of people.
Yeah, what does that mean,
Absolutely.
really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as though he can just walk in and start
throwing
people out.
So it is with the president. You fight against the Senate, the Congress, the House, all this, you got a lot of people that kind of either build you up or put you down,
Right.
Yeah,
so it can be really frustrating.
The unfortunate thing, though, with the political system, and I don't want to get too political, but the unfortunate thing is, though, really, I don't. But I think the unfortunate thing is,
all of a sudden the power will go out in the house, and you'll wonder why.
Oh yeah, oh trust me, yeah. But I think what happens, Jesus, just lost my whole train of thought. What I was going to say, you got me all discombobulated now.
Derailed.
Well, anyway, back to hauntings.
We're done with politics.
I'm done with politics. Yeah, that's why I have no future in politics. I can't remember.
Well, that would make you a good politician.
Yeah.
That's generally what they, when you ask them questions and when they're on the hot seat.
Columbian Exposition.
Yes.
Back to the Columbian Exposition.
Okay.
The White City.
Yes.
H.H. Holmes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about him?
Tell me about him.
I
know about him. Tell the listeners about him.
H.H. Holmes. Well, I mean, if you've read Devil
not
in the
White City,
City,
he is not the world's first serial killer.
That always irks me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, well, not I'm sure he wasn't the first serial killer, no matter what. I mean, but I just don't like that they consider him a serial killer because he didn't match any way, shape, or form the, other than the fact that he may have murdered more than one person. That doesn't make you a serial killer. A serial killer is more or less. Well, first of all, very few serial killers have the wherewithal and to actually finish a college degree. So that's one of the.
But he did. He went in medicine.
He finished from the University of Michigan with a medical degree. Mm-hmm. So he did finish that. So he didn't match, kind of the mold there. The other thing is that they're usually driven by the urge or the need or the desire to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't his primary motivation. He was more of
money.
A sociopath, definitely a sociopath because he had no conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could kill someone as easily as you and I take the garbage out.
And think nothing of it.
Yeah. And you knew he was lying because his mouth was moving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he legitimately would lie when he didn't need to.
I should be plugging this. Ray will be doing a lecture over at the Clearing Public Library. Clearing, is it called? Yeah, it's called Clearing Public Library. He will be there on the 26th of this month at 6 o'clock. I know they do this a little early.
Yes, they do it a little early, at 6 o'clock.
Ray will be there talking for about an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on how many questions you have. And he'll be talking all about the Columbian Exposition and about this stuff. And I will be this Thursday over at the Justice Library over on Archer Road. Well, just off of Archer Road there in Justice. I'll be over there this Thursday night at 6:30 talking on the same thing, Columbian Exposition and H.H. Holmes. But Ray is more the expert at it. Ray has more details than I do about that stuff, so because he's been at it for a lot longer. Ray actually was at the Columbian Exposition, so he would know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he got to see it firsthand. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
That would've been really cool.
Yeah. I thought about this, and I thought, today, seeing it, knowing what we know now and having what we have now at our disposal, we probably would go and say, this is kind of boring, But for them, it was a big thing. I mean, electric lights would be no big deal to us.
Well, see, I wouldn't think it'd be boring. I mean, now the general public, if you said, the Columbian Exposition, and then you shot them back to 1893, and they walked around, they'd be like, okay.
Yeah, big whip.
So what?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for history geeks, like you and I, and
it'd be fascinating.
A lot of people out there, it'd be great. That's one of the places.
I would just like to see it in color because all the photos are all black and white.
Well, they are all black and white, which is kind of. They do have a lot of colored lithographs with some watercolor lithographs that were done, but those were done before the buildings were built. So when you see these colored lithographs that were sold at the fair and following the fair, those were done based on an artist's conception of what the fair was going to look like.
They're not actual color photo; they're tinted.
They're lithographs.
Oh, lithographs!
They're
lithographs. I'm thinking of photos that are tinted, hand tinted.
No, they have the ones that are tinted too. They've tinted the photographs. Now Randall Hersey was a gentleman who was on one of our White City tours this past year, and he loved the tour. He loved hearing about the White City. And he started as kind of a hobby. He's not a graphic designer at all, but he loves fiddling around with Adobe Photoshop, and so he's taken a lot of the old, C.D. Arnold and William Jackson high resolution prints that he could find, and he's been coloring them using Photoshop, and it's really neat. I mean, he's we're hoping that this year we put out actually, I'm waiting to come from the printer, a 2015 Columbian Exposition calendar, but they're all black and white. And
this Columbia on the front, cover.
Yeah,
Columbia.
Columbia
and her maids of honor.
Yeah. But he's gotten a lot of different prints, and he pieces them together and stitches them together computer-wise. So he's got some great panoramic views that, technically didn't exist before until he put those together and colored them using the best guess or descriptions. A lot of the buildings were described in some of the books of the fair, and so
you get a chance to see the fair in color, as opposed to all the sepia photos that we have.
Exactly.
Yeah, the old sepia and black and white photos that exist.
Yeah, because people think that everyone back in 1893, everything was in black and white.
Yeah,
that trees weren't green, the sky wasn't blue.
That's what we see.
Exactly.
All the photos are
and
black
they all
and
walked
white.
around like Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah,
really quick and side to side.
Absolutely, sure.
Exactly.
They didn't.
Well, I'm assuming they did.
I thought they did.
No, I don't know.
I thought that's how everybody walked.
Well,
so what do you got now? When you get elected trustee in Evergreen Park, you're going to bring the Columbian Exposition to Evergreen Park. I mean, you'd have them take out the St. Mary's Cemetery and you could put it in there.
Yeah,
wait a minute now, you've got that whole mall over there, the Evergreen Plaza. There you go, Columbian Exposition.
I don't know if we have 200
Exposition, Columbian
acres.
Exposition Part 2. The White City Returns.
Yeah,
So here's
600
a
acres.
question out of ignorance. Why do they call it the White City?
Because all the buildings were white.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
But it was Frank Millett was the director of decoration.
Yeah.
And he's the one that decided to go with white because it was fast and it was cheap.
Yeah, everything was painted a gleaming white up until the coal fires and stuff started turning them dark again, and that. But everything was a gleaming white and pristine, and it was called the White City. And plus, at night, it was lit up so brightly at night with the electric and everything; it really glistened.
White.
So it was white. It was called the White City. Yeah. Some years later, some people make the mistake of confusing the White City Amusement Park. Some years later,
a lot of people
with
make
the
that.
Columbian Exposition
Right.
and the White City, they're actually two different things.
Right. And there were a number of
and they
White
both
City
burned down,
amusement parks.
unfortunately.
There was a White City amusement park that I was going to start looking into that was in England.
Yeah.
So a lot of people went off the whole White City kind of thing.
I think in Blackpool, isn't because Blackpool's like an amusement. Blackpool's kind of like the Wisconsin Dells of England.
Right.
You know,
I'm not sure if it's there
that type
now.
of thing.
I know,
and
but
I think
in the early
I think it was
1900s
yeah.
they
I think
did.
they had a amusement park like that there. Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember White City, John? Now, not the Columbian Exposition, but the White City, but the White City Amusement Park.
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember it?
No.
I can remember my dad talking a little bit about it. You know, maybe he went there a couple of times. I remember him mentioning it. And
Where was the White City at?
I don't know exactly where its location was. Ray would probably know.
I did know. It wasn't too far from where the White City was.
Where
Like
the Columbian
where the
Exposition was,
Columbian
right.
Exposition was.
And it was
Wasn't too
actually
far from
designed to look like it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some, and I think old Chicago.
It was designed to look like the Columbian Exposition.
I mean, you look
with
at
the
the old
domed
Chicago
building.
I wish that building was still around.
Oh, I wish the whole old Chicago amusement park was just a little bit ahead of its time. Just in case you don't know what we're talking about, going back, this would be about 77, 79 maybe or so, and the thing only lasted, oddly enough, about 6 years. 75, that was it. It was like 75 to 81, and it was out in Bolingbrook, and it was the world's first indoor amusement park shopping center. And this was the first. It was the first that we had, and it was out there literally in the middle of cornfields. And it was huge. It was like 6 football fields big, and it was an indoor amusement park. They had a corkscrew roller coaster in there and everything and all this. And it just, for whatever reason, did not catch on. And in 6 years, it went bankrupt and closed. And then they finally, in 1986, wound up raising the building and tearing the whole building down. And it was kind of modeled off the Columbian Exposition. The building was domed like that. It looked like a building at the Columbian Exposition. Wasn't painted white, though. They were like a sandstone type color, the outside of it.
Oh, right.
was.
It looked more like like a granite.
And the big restaurant in the front, when you walked in, like that big stained glass arch that they had, that glass arch that you walked under to go in, it was the Columbia House. The restaurant was the Columbia House.
Right.
And you sat at the windows in the Columbian House, and that overlooked the amusement park. It was like down, and you could see the whole view of the park in it.
I remember they used to have an organ grinder. That was like one of my favorite things. To see
With a little monkey. He used to walk around there and entertain people.
With a little monkey. And it's kind of gross. It was kind of gross initially because, I mean, not that the monkey was gross, but, I mean, well, it kind of was gross because, you know, you would hold up a coin, and the monkey, you know, would go take the
grab
coin
it out of your
from
hand.
you, grab it out of your hand. But then the guy who was the organ grinder, for some reason, thought it was really cool to say, the monkey wants to tell you a secret. And you're like, what? Okay. And then you lean over, and the monkey leans over and sticks its tongue in your ear. It was completely disgusting, but everyone around you just thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
Sure, to get your, monkey's tongue in your ear, you know.
Of course, then once you knew what the secret was, then the next time you came back to give the monkey a quarter, you didn't want to listen to the secret, but you would tell the person next to you, oh, you should, the monkey wants to tell you a secret. Just.
I actually worked there. When I was in college, I think about 77 maybe, 76, 77. I think, right around there. I worked there for a couple of years. I worked out in Bolingbrook at Old Chicago. I worked at the amusement park out there, and it was a lot of fun. It was a neat place. It was really neat, but it just never really caught on. If it was there today, I think it'd be a different story. It was a little bit ahead of its time.
Oh, I think it was too.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember it being busy at times, like really busy. So I'm not sure exactly why it didn't really catch on.
I can remember driving to work.
Great America and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, people more like the outdoor part. I remember they were there for a couple of years, and then Great America opened, and Great America took a tremendous amount of business from Old Chicago.
And being that they're limited because
you
it's
were
an
indoors.
Inside building, you couldn't build any bigger roller coasters or any higher roller coasters.
I remember a big criticism that people had was they said there's not enough there for small kids to do. So then they put in like a whole small kids area. They did that, and they remodeled and did some things there, but just never really caught itself on.
No, they had concerts there. I like the concert. I saw Chuck Berry there.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
They used to have stuff in the music hall there. They used to have stuff all the time, yeah. Well, you know me, one of my favorite stories, who I saw at the music hall was Sally Rand, the fan dancer.
Yeah,
I saw her. She did like a one weekend only performance there at the music hall, and I got to see her there and met her. And so, they brought some people into that place, but it just, for whatever reason, just never really caught on with the public and went bankrupt after a very few short years. A big place like that went belly up.
That's kind of like what you were saying earlier with the exposition. It's amazing how the trends of what people are interested in, from day to day, year to year, generation to generation, just change.
Oh, yeah.
Something that's extremely entertaining to one generation is not of interest at all to the next.
It becomes old very fast. Technology moves a lot faster now than it used to. Every 5-10 years, there's something entirely new. You go by a state-of-the-art computer today, in a couple of years' time, it's already a piece of junk. It's old stuff. Stuff moves a lot quicker.
Sure.
And the public taste changes very quickly too. Things that used to be funny 10, 15, 20 years ago, you look at them now and it's like, huh? What are they laughing at? You think of like many of the old comedians and stuff too. Jack Benny and Groucho Marx and a lot of those. Well, Groucho might be funny still, but
Groucho's still funny. But the Marx
so many
brothers,
of them, so much of the humor would just go over
Mm-hmm.
people's heads. So they'd say, "What's so funny about this?" So many of those old shows and old movies today just wouldn't make it. I don't think.
Slapstick humor's kind of died. Really,
thank God.
I never was a big fan, but that was a big thing, and it just kind of died.
Yeah, in early movies and stuff, it was all slapstick. Yeah, Keystone Cops and the Chaplin comedies and stuff. All slapstick. Yeah, that was the stuff. And actually, that all started here in Chicago. A lot of people don't know it. The old SNA studio. Chaplin made one film here in Chicago and then headed out to Hollywood. It was called His New Job with Ben Turpin, the cross-eyed comedian. And Gloria Swanson, who says, I never did slapstick. She did. She started off, the big DeMille goddess of the films, so Gloria Swanson. She says, I never did slapstick pictures, but she did. She has a small bit part in His New Job. She had a little bit part in it before she became CCB DeMille's big discovery. Yeah. Interesting to note that Chicago has a lot of things that come out of Chicago. A lot of things came out of the Columbian Exposition.
Oh, a ton of stuff came out of the
H.H. Holmes.
Well, he did not come out of... they married that guy, Eric Larson. I love the book. And thank goodness for Eric Larson, there'd be less people interested in the Columbian Exposition. But he's by that book, he's married H.H. Holmes with the Columbian Exposition.
Yeah, and they're really not...
And I've been really, 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 really trying to find links between him and the Columbian Exposition, other than the fact that he was just killing people in Chicago at the same time.
Killing people or employees, people that maybe worked there, people maybe they rented rooms. There's no way of really knowing.
No, there's. I think the last time I looked, there was probably between 6 to 9 people at the most that could definitely be traced back to being murdered by Holmes.
Well, what I found out, and I'm sure you've done way far more research on the subject than I have, but what I found out researching H.H. Holmes, the research I've been able to get a hold of and things I've been able to, especially when I was getting together this presentation for Thursday, was it's hard to know what exactly is the truth and what's not.
Right.
Because Holmes was just such a pathological liar.
Right.
He used so many different aliases and told so many different things. He confessed to actually 27 murders.
Right.
But out of the 27 people he said he murdered, some of them were still alive.
Absolutely. And one of them is the book, Henry Rogers.
Yeah.
And I had done a talk up in Wisconsin because in Appleton, Wisconsin, Henry Rogers is a big deal.
Ah.
He was from his home was the first home lit by the first distributed hydroelectric Edison generator.
Oh yeah, we had this conversation before. Yes, about the Jordan's boarding house.
Yeah.
We are going to stop, take a slight break here, a very slight break for us. It goes fast; it's only like 2 seconds, and we will come right back on. Stick with us, folks. We'll be right back. Our break is about.
You're listening to Paranormal Radio with Bob Tricek from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Tuesday, January the 13th, the year 2015. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now, friends, back to Paranormal Radio and Mr. Bob Tricek.
Okay, we are back on. Can you hear me? Can't hear John. There it goes. Now we can hear it. Yeah. We are back on. Thank you for coming back with us, folks. Just to kind of get, before we get back into the conversation here and take a couple of minutes break from that, I had said I was going to bring on an old recording, which if you've listened to Paranormal Radio, I like to do this from time to time. Tonight we've got an artist, Francisco Tamaño. Tamaño is an artist from back in the turn of the last century, I should say. He actually died in 1905, aged 54 years. And he was the reigning tenor right before Enrico Caruso. And he had a very short recording career. He did make about maybe 20 or so recordings, not too many of them. All very early, scratchy old 78 recordings with piano accompaniment to them. So we do have some of his voice preserved, although by the time he was at 54 years of age, his voice was somewhat in decline. So we're going to play a very short recording about that. It's maybe 2 minutes long, recording of him, and then we'll talk a little bit about his some of the haunts that he has, because he haunts a couple of places too. So we will get this going. Of course, that's if everything's working right. I should have tested this out ahead of time, because sometimes we have trouble with technology. There it goes.
Tutte le fibre
Okie doke. That was the voice of reigning tenor of the last century, Mr. Francesco Tamagno, singing Di Quella Pura from Il Trovatore. These recordings were 10-inch recordings. It was about 2 minutes long, and they sold for $5. So that was quite a lot of money in those days. Yeah, so it was something they were aiming at, a higher market than just the average record-buying public of the day that paid maybe 35 cents for those, for recording in those days. So it was something a little bit above that. Tamagno did make some recordings. Like I said, he made these at age 54, so by then your voice is a little past its prime. It's not what it had been, he had been in younger days, and he had been suffering from a heart ailment. Right after he made the series of recordings, he passed away. Wow. So he didn't last too long after that. Wow. However, his spirit has been known to still be hanging around on this earth. La Scala in Italy, for whatever reason, his ghost is seen there. He likes to haunt the backstage area of that, behind the curtains and things. People go and they see a bearded man in costume walking back there. Often he's mistaken for Enrico Caruso, but then people realize, no, this man has a beard. Caruso had no beard, and then they know that it's Tamagno's spirit that's been hanging out there. So some of these opera stars and some performers do like to haunt these old houses and theaters. They still like to hang around there. So that will be that.
Right. Now, if you close your eyes, you could picture a mob execution during that. I mean,
very Godfather-esque.
Very Godfather-esque. Yes. I had images of people being mowed down with machine guns while this is playing.
Last month, I had played a Caruso recording for Christmas. A Christmas recording for Caruso. And one of the guests that we had, Monty Stone, says, this reminds me of Al Capone. Because Al Capone was a big Caruso fan. I said, well, yeah, that would have been right in the era, right around the 1920s. Caruso passed away in the mid-20s. So I says, yeah, and he was very big with the Italian community. So, yeah, it would have been something you probably would have heard. Tamagno, I don't know. He was, no, they were around. The mob was around in 1905.
Sure.
They were around still, so yeah, yeah.
I think Capone at the time was probably 5.
Yeah, right. True. He would have been very young at that time.
Still in New York.
Yeah, yeah. Or in Italy. No, he was born here.
He was born in New York.
He was born here,
yeah.
He didn't come from abroad,
no.
yeah.
I think his father was a barber.
His father was a barber.
His father was the barber of Seville.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just say these things.
Is that a neighborhood in New York? Or
yeah, the Seville district. Yeah. His mother was Cruella Seville. I don't know. I just say these things.
No.
I just say these things, and they come to me, and some of them make sense and some of them don't. Anyway, back to
it's been at least a couple hours since the pain medication, right?
Yeah, when it wears off, you can kind of tell. Yeah. So we're back to this. What were we talking about? Politics, the White City, H.H. Holmes.
And then what?
Your book.
And then
we got to talk about your book.
Oh, fine.
Chicago History: The Stranger Side. Ray's new book.
Right.
That is in addition to the Facebook page. He also has. So what now? If you read the Facebook page, you don't have to buy the book.
Well, I do. Yeah.
How this works?
It's all free on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
No, the Facebook page is about 2,700 people that just share stories.
Gotcha.
I'd kind of thought of the group before I thought of the name of the book. Mm-hmm. And I thought, it'd be a neat name for a book. And then, so it's not all. The first book was Chicago's Haunt Detective, and that's based on all ghost stories and psychics.
We should mention that too,
sort
because you are a retired
copper. Yeah.
You know why they're called coppers?
Yeah, because their badges were made out of copper.
Oh, absolutely.
I finally knew something there.
So he knew that? Yeah, you knew that one, yeah.
Yeah.
John did not know that. You didn't know that? In New York, their badges were made out of copper, so they called them coppers, and then they gradually just shortened it to cops.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone used to say, well,
see, John, you learn things. You learn something new every day, John. See,
well, at the age of 76, I'm still learning yet.
You do. You learn something. You learn something new every day. Some things we don't want to learn, but we do learn them just the same. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of different. There are some ghost stories. I mean, I love Chicago history, and if you throw a ghost story in there too, that's great.
History. How many times have you heard me say this? History and paranormal go hand in hand.
Well, because you can't have a ghost unless the guy's history.
That's somebody from the past, yeah. Chicago History: The Stranger Side. I have not read this one yet because Ray very generously just gave me a copy of it tonight, which he signed for me. If someone wants to purchase this, I'm sure it is very good. I will be reading this tonight. I know the last book that you wrote was good. If someone would like to purchase your books or see what you've got up there, where can they get them at, Ray?
Well, I mean, you can get them on Amazon.
Amazon.com?
So they're
punch
they're
up
in
Chicago Haunt
bookstores.
Detective or punch up Chicago History?
They're in Chicago
Side?
bookstores, Barnes & Noble. So, I mean, they're all
I know.
over
I
the
go
place,
up there.
but
I go out to the one in Orland Park, the Barnes & Noble out there, and I see your books on the shelf. I take them and I throw them underneath.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured. I go and I'm like, I just saw the bookshelves. They must be selling like hotcakes. No, Bob's over there hiding them.
Look at that. That Ray Johnson guy had a book out there. Look at
hiding them under the crossword puzzles.
Yeah, I hide them under. Yeah, I throw them in there. I throw them in with the Little House on the Prairie books by the kids section.
Great.
Well, that's cool. They have your word out there and do that. Now you said you're working on 3 books?
Yeah, the one is.
How do you work on 3 books and not get confused?
Well,
what you're
who
writing?
said I wasn't confused?
That's true. I never did say that, did I?
Yeah. Well, a couple of books I can't talk about yet because they're super secret.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the Freak Show book is the one that we're currently working with the publisher.
Is
to
that
get
proper
contracts.
to use nowadays? Freak
You can
Show.
use Freak Show.
Can you say
Sure,
that?
Yeah.
Can you say
it
Freak
doesn't,
Show?
Yeah, they don't. It's not.
They're okay with
it's
that?
not a derogatory term.
They're not like called, muddled people or something or whatever.
No,
I don't know.
there's a couple of different names that they used
Okay,
to use.
yeah.
Human oddities
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
And
I can remember as a kid going to Old Riverview. God, we're talking about all these amusement parks tonight.
Riverview
Park. I can remember going in with my father. Oh, John didn't like Riverview.
He didn't
had
like
He must have had a bad experience. His hands went up. His hands went up in the air, and he went, phooey, when I mentioned Riverview.
You guys start talking about Riverview, you'll have me in here crying because that was the home of my home in the summertime.
Oh, okay.
Because I just lived a few blocks away from Riverview Park.
Did you really?
Yes, I lived at Addison and Oakley.
Ah.
And Riverview Park was at Belmont and Western.
There's a Toys R Us there now.
That's right. Toys R Us are there. DeVry Institute is there. There's a police station and a circuit court building there. But the Riverview Park, I used to be there every night of the week because I just used to love Riverview Park.
I can remember going into the Freak Show with my father. My mother, we'd go to her family, and my brother, Ray, my mom, my dad. We'd go to Riverview for a day in the summer.
Did they have a Freak Show there?
Oh, they sure
did.
did.
That.
Oh yeah, and my dad would go, "Come on, Bobby, we're going in there." My brother Ray wouldn't go. My mom, of course, would not go in there. So my dad would drag me in there, and I'd be afraid, because Popeye would be there, the eyes would bug out, and the fat lady, and they had all these oddities. They had
What's
the woman
so scary about a fat lady?
Yeah, fat lady would be the fat. It wasn't a fat lady; it was a fat man actually that they had. I remember the fat man. And they had a lady with like horns on her for hands and stuff and all this.
Horns?
And you could shake hands with her and all this.
With her horn?
Yeah. They were
it's too easy. I'm not even going to say it.
No, she had like horns. They looked like they were like cows' hoofs type things, but they were pointed, and that's what she had for hands and stuff like that. And they had all these people in there, and you could shake hands with them and talk and everything. I'd be afraid at first, but then I'd start talking to them, and by the time we got out of there, Mom would go, "What the heck were you doing in there so long?" And my dad say, "This one here, yak 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 yak." I had to talk to all.
Well, they are
all
just
the people in there. Yeah, I would talk to them all. Yeah,
It's kind of horrible, actually.
They've
when you
kind
think about it.
I don't know if but
putting them on display is.
But you know what? Now here's something I found out about this: is people said everything being politically correct, and we don't think it's right to exhibit people like this on public displays, like at state fairs. They used to have this and everything like that.
They probably needed the money,
but they like doing it because that's their way they earn a living.
Exactly.
I mean, you couldn't have the lady with horns on her hands, very well operating the elevator at Macy's or something. So I mean, so really, what else did they do? And they all
Field.
they all like this. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys remember the parachute jump that was over there?
I never went on it. I was too little to go on it, but I do remember it.
I went on it.
Was it good? Was it good?
I tell you what happened. My buddy Eddie Rosanek and we got enough nerve this particular day to go onto the parachute jump. And when you go up there, you sit down, and all you sit on is like on a piece of 2x4. Mm-hmm. It's just a little plank that's there with the straps on it. So they say, they strap you in and they buckle you in and all that, so the thing goes up. And it goes up and goes up and goes up. Well, before you know it, we were way above. I mean, we could almost see Michigan City. That's how high up we went. We were almost maybe about a foot or two from the top, because when you hit the top, it would
release it would come down. Yeah.
We were about a foot or two from the top. There was a big explosion. Commonwealth Edison lost their power, and we were stuck up there for about a half hour, 45 minutes.
On a 2x4 sitting there.
Yeah. Oh, and they're hollering to us over megaphones, everything will be okay. We'll get you down as soon as possible. We sat up there and it happened to be a windy day, so this thing is going back and forth and back and forth. But after our nerves settled down and we made control of our pants. I tell you, it was a beautiful sight up there, though, But that was the first and the last time I ever went up on the parachute jump.
I never went on the parachute. I was too little. I don't think it would. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I don't know if Riverview even had restrictions like for height restrictions or anything.
I have no.
I think
if
you paid your 10 cents, you just went on the ride. I think.
What, was this like a drop thing?
Yeah, it was a parachute.
Drop.
You'd, like you said, you sat on a board and it would like haul you up to the top, and then when you got to the top, they would hit a release and a chute would open, like a parachute would open up, and the thing would just float down.
It sounds incredibly dangerous. dangerous.
It probably was. As so many of those rides were. Now, the other thing I could tell you, too, about going, now, I do remember going on the bobs. There again, my father would drag me on the bobs and stuff like that. There were no seat belts. There were no harnesses that came over your head or anything. There was a metal bar in the front, and you held on for dear life.
Oh,
and I can remember riding this thing, standing up. My father had one arm on the bar, one arm around me holding on, and I'm holding on for dear life, standing up in this thing as it's going down. Yeah,
I tell you, it's a wonder that thing didn't ever fly off the tracks.
Oh, we thought it was fun.
Yeah,
we never knew we were in danger. We thought it was, it was fun.
I didn't go on the Bobs, but I went on the Greyhound and the Blue Streak and the Silver Streak.
The Silvers, now was the Silver Streak or the Comet the one that had the silver top over it? It looked like a spaceship kind of like thing.
No, that was the Comet.
That was the Comet.
That
I
was
remember
the Comet,
going on
yeah.
that one too.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this other ride that used to kind of go around in a circle and up and down a hill, and it had like a cover that would come over it.
The
It
whip.
roasted to death. It was hot as hell in summertime because that cover would come up over the thing. And
That was called the Whip.
Yeah, and it would go around, and the thing would cover you up. You'd be in total darkness going around in this thing.
Yep, the Whip. And then they had the Mill on the Force where he went on the boat and went into all the tunnels in the
And the
water.
shoot to shoot.
And the shoot to shoot.
And I was always afraid of the shoot to shoot. I was going to fall out and drown in the water. The water was only 18 inches
well,
deep.
like I,
I thought I was going to drown in this big pool of water that was 100 foot deep.
Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I went there every evening, and that's where I would sit because you had the benches right around the water there.
I remember. I was
and
very little, but I do remember it.
And I sat there every night, and right behind me was the PA system where they were playing background music. Bob,
that was your evening.
That was my life.
Yeah. See, and what did it cost you? Probably a nickel. If you were lucky.
Yeah. Well, of course, we had a pass. We had a Riverview pass, so I got in for free.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And then they would have 2-cent days and 5 cent
I remember 2
nights.
cent Tuesdays.
Yeah. So you go right. You pay 2 cents.
For a ride.
You pay 2 cents to go on a ride, and then if you want to ride again, you pay 5 cents. Why pay 5 cents? You get off, pay the 2 cents, and go back on again. That's what we used to do.
I can remember. What else can I remember at Riverview? I can remember Aladdin's Castle too.
Yes,
going to Aladdin's Castle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I can remember that one.
The Ferris wheel. The
double Ferris wheel. We got off of that. And we were all throwing up.
Yep. And then the octopus.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the one.
The water. They had the bumper cars too on the water. I don't know what they were called. The water bugs or something.
Yeah,
I forget what that was called.
Water bug. Yeah. Yep.
I remember them. Yeah. God, it's funny how you remember. You don't forget it.
Yeah.
But there again, that's another piece of little Chicago history that's gone. And not going to be around.
And I tell you, the city finally after a fashion, they put up that overpass over. You went down Western Avenue, went over an overpass to go over Belmont Avenue. Well, then, of course, a couple of years later, they tore Riverview Park down.
That was it, about 67, 68,
yeah, 67.
I think. Yeah.
And I stood on the top of that bridge, and I watched the old parachute jump
come down.
down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, gone but not forgotten.
I can still see that in my mind. That thing just toppling down to a big pile
go up
of
on.
rubbish.
I think if you go up on YouTube, you could see some old film footage. People took like home movies of it and stuff like that.
I don't know how I got it or where I got it, but it's a DVD, and a guy had collected old home movies from different people.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
And so I've got it at home. I'll make you guys a copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
But
You know something? You know something? That gentleman lived right around on Foster Avenue around Nago. I can't think of his name, but I think his first name was Pete or something like that. But he had all kinds of old time stuff of Riverview Park.
Really, all memorabilia of it and that, yeah.
Yeah, I've got his DVD, and his name is in the beginning, but he collected old
film footage.
Yeah, film footage,
Yeah.
and he put it all together into a DVD.
Oh, I can remember very well going there. I'll never forget it. It was just a lot of fun. Like you said, we never thought we went on these rides and things. You never thought you were in danger. It was just fun.
Today it'd be like lawsuit.
Oh,
lawsuit,
sure.
lawsuit.
I'm sure. Yeah. Every time somebody got hurt today, it'd be a lawsuit. Yeah. Yeah.
So when did it open? When did Riverview first open?
It was actually there like around the turn of the century. It was
Really?
a long time. It was
Wow.
actually, it started off with a carousel, and it was like a German beer garden type park thing, and then it just kept expanding and expanding, and it kind of became like a Coney Island type thing in New York, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger all the time. Yeah, and then
The
finally
video
it
was
just,
fun to watch because even
and then
though
finally
the roller
towards the end,
coasters,
it was just losing money, and
yeah, watching the videos, you think okay, the roller coaster wasn't that big or wasn't that big of a drop, but then they show close-ups,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was home movies, and like you said, there were no seatbelts, there were nothing.
no, you just
locking
held
the
on.
people in, so you're
That's
like,
all. It was a metal bar in the front. You held on for dear life, and
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah. That was all. So if you flew out of the thing, you flew out of it. That was it.
Apparently it worked. I don't know.
Yeah.
Slide movie presentation. I wonder if this is the guy.
So that's a little. John just handed Ray a card here with
Yeah, very
somebody's
cool.
name on it. He thinks this is the man that did the videos
It
of
might
this.
have been. Yeah, review. I'll have to see if his name is on it.
See, Chris, all these things you missed out on that you're too young. But there'll be some other stuff now that,
I'm fine with Disney World.
Yeah.
Great America.
There'll be Great America. Yeah, there'll be things now that people will be remembering in 30 years from now and saying, "Oh, I can remember Great America and how nice that was." You know, it's all gone now. There's nothing there. There's a shopping mall there. You know.
Yeah. Probably.
Exactly. Or what will they come up with next?
Yeah, always something. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get it. One thing I always thought was kind of interesting is that there's no. I've had a couple people approach me with this, and it's an idea I've had, and there's an attorney that I'm working with, and he represents a lot of clients that have huge Columbian Exposition collections, like not just souvenirs but actual artifacts from the Columbian Exposition.
Parts of the buildings and parts of the rides and things and attractions and stuff.
I'm sure. I don't know everything that his clients have, but he said it would fill a museum, and that's one thing we've never had is a kind of a Columbian Exposition museum. So we're kind of throwing those ideas around. But
I'm waiting for someone to rebuild the Kilauea volcano exhibit or whatever the thing was in the Midway.
Yeah, I remember the photos of it. Yeah, it's like cool.
Yeah, it's like
a
round building. Yeah,
volcano. It's a round building. You go inside and you can see the volcano erupt. Yeah.
I wonder how they did that back
in
then.
1893. Yeah, good question.
Probably dangerous chemicals that
I'm
were
sure. I'm sure.
carcinogens. And
yeah, exactly.
Which everybody thought was great.
Lit the place on fire.
Well, a good part of the attractions on the Midway Plaisance were human attractions.
Yes.
They were, people from foreign countries, and the Egyptian exhibit, and the streets of Cairo and stuff.
And a number of them, the ones that were actual indigenous people to the areas they say they were from, because there were a lot of phonies.
Sure.
So Saul Bloom, who was kind of the mastermind of the whole Midway,
he wrote the music for Little Egypt.
Little Egypt, yeah. Well, he wrote the music, but not the words. So
I didn't know there were words to it.
There are words to it.
Oh.
I've got it on my phone.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Play it for us.
Okay, let's see if I can.
This was the music that was written for Little Egypt, the belly dancer on the Midway at the Columbian Exposition.
I've got a recording.
And it's going to be familiar to everybody because everybody's heard this.
Exactly. So. Most people think of it as the Hoochie Coochie.
That's what it was called.
But the first one is actually from an Edison recording that was made 2 years following the fair, which is terrible. And then someone had done a remake, and you can understand the words in the remake. So let's see if I can.
Here, John gave me the book, Riverview Amusement Park. It's one of those. I don't know what they are. There's like a whole series of these, all the different Chicago neighborhoods. Images of America is what they're called, and this one is about Riverview.
Okay. I mean, I could either just shove it in the mic or grab one of these little outputs and put it in there. But
we got to hear this. This is the Hoochie Coochie music.
Oh no, that's the Columbian Exposition March.
That's the Columbian Exposition March. Yes. Yeah, I recognize that one.
I go back. Okay, so this is. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so this would be the recording.
I will sing you a song, and it won't be very long, about a maiden sweet, and she never would do wrong. Everyone said she was pretty, she was not long in the city, all alone, oh what a pity, poor little maid.
I never knew that had words to it. Who's the singer? Is that Will F. Denny? It was probably announced at the beginning of it.
Dan W.
Oh, Dan W. Quinn. Dan W. Quinn, a very early pioneer recording artist.
Now here's a remake. I don't know who did the remake. But
was that a Columbia or an Edison?
Edison
record?
That was an Edison.
I never knew that song. I never knew they had words to it.
It didn't have words during the exposition, but they wrote words to it later on. Okay.
I will sing you a song, and it won't be very long, about a maiden sweet, and she never would do wrong. Everyone said she was pretty, she was not long in the city, all alone, oh what a pity, poor little maid. She never saw the streets of Cairo on the Midway, she had never strayed, she never saw the Coochie Coochie, poor little country maid.
Little Country Maid.
Now this gets funny.
She went out one night, did this innocent divine, with a nice young man who invited her to dine. Now he's sorry that he met her, and he never will forget her. In the future he'll know better, poor little maid. She never saw the streets of Cairo on the Midway, she had never was engaged as a picture for to pose, to appear each night in abbreviated clothes. All the dudes were in a flurry, for to catch her they did hurry. One who caught her now is sorry, poor little maid. She was much fair for the trilby, lots of more men sorry will be if they don't try to keep away from this poor little country maid.
Now, that was a recording from 1893, right?
No, yeah, that wasn't. No, the first one was.
Yeah, the first one you could tell, yeah.
I have to make it stop now. But yeah,
A little
the
piece of
part
music that's familiar to everybody from
Yeah.
cartoons and wherever you've seen it or heard it in that, but a lot of people aren't familiar where it came from.
Yeah, the part that cracks me up was the part about the Mormons will soon be sorry. There'll be a bunch of Mormons soon be sorry if they.
I know, I was listening to it, yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. She never saw the Midway, or no, how did it go? She never saw the
That
streets
she
of
never-
Cairo.
She never saw the streets of Cairo,
Which was an attraction on the Midway, yeah.
On the Midway, and that's actually where.
That's where she
Egypt-
performed, on the
that's where
streets of
Little
Cairo.
Egypt
Yeah,
happened,
yeah. And not the Moorish Palace. The Moorish Palace was a wax museum, and something else was in the Moorish Palace. No, she did dance in the Moorish Palace.
Well, it was on the streets of Cairo. But
She danced in the Moorish Palace, and there was also a wax museum in there that was a big attraction
Right.
at the
But there were
Columbian
more than
Exposition.
one Little Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least more than one woman.
Yeah.
The thing was is that there couldn't be just one. It'd
No,
be
'cause one-
impossible because the one person couldn't have danced that many times for that long. And that
Sure, you
many
had to have a
shows.
couple of them, yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
But the Little Egypt, was still performing at age 63 in 1933 at the Century of Progress Exposition.
Supposedly.
Yeah, she was the real Little Egypt. Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
what was her name?
Fahir. Oh,
Yeah, that was
Wait
the
a
one
minute.
that
I got it written down.
It was Fahir.
Something. She's Syrian. She was actually a Syrian.
She was Syrian, and
Yeah.
she was married to a Chicago
Mhm.
businessman.
Let's see if I can find her name here. I wrote it down somewhere in my notes here.
Now you won't be able to get it out of your head.
Yeah. Let's see. Little Egypt, where are you hiding here? I wrote her name down.
I had it too. It's like Faraday.
Yeah.
Said, yeah,
Well,
so-
any hoots.
I'd mispronounce it anyway, even if I could read it.
Farida Mezar Spyropoulos,
That's it.
Syrian. I thought Spyropoulos was a
Sounds
Greek-sounding
Greek.
name.
Well,
yeah,
she was married to a Chicago.
they all sound
businessman.
Greek to me.
Yeah. I believe that's her married
Farida
name.
Mezar Spyropoulos,
Yeah, that was her
1871 to 1937. Stage name was Fatima, better known as Little Egypt. So there, smoke that in your pipe.
That's right.
Yeah. Chris,
Yes.
back to you again in politics. Something more serious here, since you have no sense of humor whatsoever.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing at you, not with you.
Back to the political agenda here. So what are you thinking now? After you get this trustee thing, which we know you have in the bag for April 7th.
I would like to think so, but thank you.
Yeah,
I
after you
appreciate
get
that.
elected to this, what else are you aspiring to?
Oh, we'll see one thing at a time.
Did we mention that you're also on the school board right now? You presently
Right.
sit on the board.
Currently, I'm the president of the District 231
Yeah.
Evergreen High School School
Yeah.
Board. Yeah, that term will be expiring in April. So hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be starting as a trustee that same month.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see how it goes. If we.
And then after this
have some
trustee gig,
progress.
then what next? The governor or the White House or what?
I don't know if I can handle that.
I want him to get into the White House because then I'll
Yeah,
have an
you
in.
just-
I can
you
go
just
in
wanna
and
go
do
in
my.
and do your
I can
paranormal
I
investigation.
can investigate and I can stay in the
Mhm.
Lincoln bedroom. I can stretch out on the Lincoln bed and relax in there and everything. And
Why don't you just go straight for the seat of power? You can just try to take Michael Madigan's spot.
yeah.
Oh.
Oh no.
Yeah, really.
No,
I think
no.
he actually runs the country.
Pretty much.
Who knows? Yeah.
Oh, there goes the power again. No.
No, something clicked, but I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something from
Yeah.
beyond.
No, I think
Yeah.
they just put a tap on the phone line.
Okay, so I guess we will. Geez, with all of this, I guess we're going to wrap. Let's see. Did we run overtime, John? Or no, we didn't. We were okay. We got 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes
We have
left.
2
my
minutes.
So we
goodness.
timed it
It's an
perfectly.
eternity.
So we'll give plugs to everybody. Incidentally, Chris, are you aware of the? Yeah, you're aware of the fact that Ray Johnson's son. They kicked the butt of the Evergreen Park Mustangs over at the
No, it
Special
wasn't the
Olympics.
Mustangs.
It wasn't the Mustangs. They fought? No, they
were
weren't.
playing at the Mustangs High School.
Yeah.
It was
Oh.
it was a
Right.
tournament.
We had
So
a
who
special
did they
Olympics
beat?
tournament.
Who did they play against?
It was, let's see, the first game, I've got it on my phone. It was Leiden
Okay.
They beat Leiden, and then they
Must be Dutch.
And it was, I don't know if it was East or West Leiden, but they just had Leiden on their jerseys.
We had a couple hundred people out there. It was a nice event. 2 gyms with 3 basketball courts going all day.
Yes.
Special Olympics was apparently something like at all the schools, because I saw one of the teachers at Dunkin'
it's the
Donuts
same
at Sunday from Argo High,
organization.
and they had Special Olympics there
I think
too.
it's the Illinois Special Olympics
Yeah,
Association.
yeah.
There's a
Right.
group that does that, and we allow them to use our facilities.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was really great. Now they originally had the tournament at the Cicero Middle School, the big one that's over on just off of Cermak Road there in Cicero. But then it got so big that even the place, I think, has like 8 gyms. It's a huge middle school.
It's good to hear
It
that
was
it's
one
a
of the
growing thing.
biggest-
It's good to hear. Yeah.
One of the biggest middle schools in
When it
the
started
country.
off, there were probably 10 of them, and that was
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Now it's
But now he's going to state. So they beat the 2
Wow.
teams they played against. So
That's
in March he
fantastic.
goes down
That is-
to ISU.
That's really
Yeah.
great.
Okay. Ray Johnson, Chicago's Haunt Detective, Chicago History, The Stranger Side. What else can we plug for Ray? That you pick up on Amazon.com. Friends of the White City Tours.
Friends of the White City,
which will
it's a
start up in May
501c3.
2nd
Yep.
through October 30th.
Yes, it'll be May, whatever the first Saturday in May is.
I don't know.
They
the
run on
2nd?
Saturdays at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to go, we meet down every Saturday. Of course, if it's really terrible weather, we kind of judge it at the time. But you can bring umbrellas. I mean, we've done them in the rain.
Rain or shine.
Rain or
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah, rain or shine.
So 11 a.m. right by the close to the Clarence Darrow Bridge. And of course, I'm not sure. Now, there's going to be some work done on the bridge coming up. So I'm
May
not
2nd.
sure.
I said May 2nd. May 2nd through October 30th.
All right.
Yeah, every Saturday from May 2nd through October 30th.
Yep.
Friends of the White City Tour.
Yep.
And incidentally, these tours are totally free.
Right.
You just show up, and Ray Johnson, they do a fantastic job. The Friends of the White City. Ray came. I got curb service. Ray came to my house, picked me up, took me down there, gave me the tour. I couldn't keep up, of course, because they were going a little too quick for me. But I had a special private tour by, who was your assistant there, Louise?
Louis McCurry. It's not my assistant. We do the tours in conjunction with
Your
the
partner,
Jackson
I should
Park
say.
Advisory
Yeah.
Council.
Yeah.
And they've been really great. And
So Louise kind of pulled me aside, gave me the private tour and the act and everything. So yeah, we walked around, and you cover a lot of ground with that tour. It's they give you a lot of info. Ray's just a fountain of knowledge about this. It's a subject he's very passionate about, and he has a lot of info to give you on that. Also, too, Ray will be speaking, like I said, at the Clearing Library on the 26th. This Thursday, I will be at the Justice Library dancing the Hoochie Coochie.
You want people
Wow,
to come
yeah,
to
I
that,
was
right?
gonna say, I
You
think
do
you-
it.
I think
the
you
idea
just
is we're
killed
trying
that.
to
You do
we're
want
trying
people
to
to come,
we're
right?
trying to attract people, not get rid of them. Yeah.
Yep.
And Chris is running for office, so go out and vote for Chris. If you live in the village of Evergreen Park, April 7th. Punch what?
I don't have a punch
You
number.
don't have
That's
a number
kind of
yet?
a thing of the past.
They don't do that anymore.
Or even if you don't live in Evergreen Park,
Yeah,
just
that's-
show up and
it's
vote.
Chicago
Am I going to have
politics,
to? Am I going to have to stand out in front of one of the schools again and hand out those little
Yeah.
things for you?
You-
Okay.
yeah.
All right. All right.
basically.
And I'll be happy to do it. I want to see you get elected
Do
here,
a
and I think you'll
little
do very well.
electioneering.
Yeah, I want to see you do things like that, and you'll do well at that. And I think that'll
Thank
be
you.
very good for the village and very good for the community and for everybody else too.
Yeah, thank you very
yeah.
much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How's Arnie doing? Oh, I saw him yesterday.
Arnold, my dog.
Yeah, he
Arnold.
got his haircut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing good.
Yeah.
He's hanging out. He doesn't like the cold. So.
I don't either.
Well,
so yeah.
you know.
Well, okay, folks. I guess that's about it. I'm talked out. We have nothing else to talk about. We have no more music to play. Well, we do. We have our theme song music to play.
X-Files.
Thank you so much for listening. Our next paranormal broadcast will be February 23rd. We know that one already, so the next date we'll broadcast on February 23rd. It will be President's Month for February, so we'll be doing some talking about Lincoln's ghost, and some hauntings in the White House. I know that. And then I've got a couple of guests lined up for that one too. A lady that's very active with the Lincoln Funeral Train. She'll be phoning in with a call for us on that date. And then I think we're also going to get a spiritualist minister that's going to come on here from one of the spiritualist churches. So I'm not too certain about that one yet, too, but we got some folks lined up. So that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for listening, folks. These shows are a joy to listen, or to do, I should say. They're a pleasure for me to do. Ray Johnson, thanks as always for coming on.
No,
Ray,
you're
come back
welcome.
anytime you want.
Great being
Welcome back anytime you want, and bring more stuff when
Of
you come the
course.
next time.
Of
Ray,
course.
every time Ray comes, he brings you a gift. He brought me his book. He brought me a print of the thing. So Ray's a great one to have on because he always brings you something. Chris, thank you for coming on, and thanks
you
for
for
driving
having
me up here.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And back.
Yeah, and back.
Well, I was
right.
going to see how the show went before I made the decision.
Yeah, it's a
to
little
drive
too
you
far to
back.
walk, so yeah. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for listening, folks. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Paranormal Radio with Bob Treshek from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich. Paranormal Radio is directed by John DeVita. Our audio engineer is James Rohde. The executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is John Chiconda. And radio station manager for WRHS FM Norwich is Mr. Kevin Zeflik. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Monday, January the 12th, the year 2015. Until next time, thanks for listening and be safe.